So notice like the price at the ballpark has really gotten crazy, especially with drinks. So what I have here is this camera lens, but it's not actually a camera lens, it's a thermos. So what you do is you bring a drink in, you mix it up, and you got yourself a Manhattan. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, Ryan Yarbrough has been having the Cinderella kind of throwback season for the Yankees there in the starting rotation. Unfortunately, will be on the IL there with an oblique strain, so we'll kind of look at that situation and what the Yankees' plans are for the rotation now that one spot is down there. Of course, the Yankees now have a couple of options, and we'll tell you also who's working their way back into the rotation as well there. And of course, we'll look at some good news as well with Luke Weaver coming back to the Yankees after we all had to bite our nails where we thought maybe we were going to lose the guy for 4 to 6 weeks. Came back much sooner than expected there. And even though he is back, he's not exactly going to be the de facto closer. So we'll kind of just go over what Boone's plan is for now that you have Weaver, and at least Devin Williams throwing the ball much better than he has been in April there. And of course, interesting debate on the WFN radio lately regarding Anthony Volpe. Do you consider him quote unquote a bust? Yes or no in that situation? So I'll kind of check it in that argument there, where a lot of obviously a lot of people are down on him, they get a hard on him, but would you exactly consider him a bust? I went on there for foreshadowing there, but we'll look at his numbers why I would say that he's not a bust there. So got some stuff for you, got some injury, got a little Volpe there, so great episode for you. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. So wherever you get your favorite podcast, look for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, subscribe there, and it's also right here on the YouTube channel, or if you're watching on TV as well, go to YouTube as well there, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe there, we'll get all the content. So the Yankees lucked out with Ryan Yarbrough. Cashman signed him just at the start of the season there. Mainly just to be a reliever, but we all know his background there. With his days with Tampa, with his days with Toronto, as well as the Dodgers there, kind of been a bit of a journeyman. Does have the experience starting there. So just with the injuries the Yankees had, of course, we know Cole, Luis Seal, and then with Stroman as well. Just as it would have be, they kind of put Yarbrough in there. It was almost kind of like, all right, well, let's just pencil in, just for a start or two, let's see what he gave us. And of course, for the Yankees, surprising very well. And kind of you scratch your head there because he's nothing overwhelming there. Again, he only throws 89 miles per hour, the hardest there. It's a lot of herky-jerky motion. It's a lot of pitching, a lot of old-school pitching, changing speed, stuff like that. And really, if you look at some of his body work, maybe up to like almost a month ago there, you could probably say he's, just one of the consistent and better Yankees starters in the rotation. Just consistently pretty much going 5 or 6 innings there and just giving up he'll give up like one home run or two, and that's about it then, and shut everyone else down the rest of the way there. But unfortunately, you probably noticed as well the last couple of starts, he was getting kicked around a bit, knocked around a little bit. It's like something's really wrong with the guy. And it turns out like he has a strain in his right oblique. Now, right now, they're putting him on the 15-day IL. Now, even though he said he injured it really in the June 13th game, that was the Friday the 13th game, where Judge hit the home run in the 9th inning, but the Yankees lost an extra innings there, where, again, he didn't get beat up there. And I'll give you his numbers over his previous 3 starts just to show you what I mean there. But again, after that, that's where he felt he really tweaked something. They gave him one more start against the Angels after that. Again, he gave up a couple of home runs. He didn't get beat up, wasn't terrible there, but you get to see it wasn't the same guy anymore. Not that he's the type of guy that's going to go 7 innings and shut down the other team there, but you get to see there's something wrong with him. It just seemed a little different. So I'm almost thinking that the oblique was probably even bother him. This even before that, the previous start in Boston at home when he got kicked around a little bit there. But nevertheless, I'll go over this past three starts there. So we'll go back to the game where I think probably the injury almost really did happen, or just before that, and that'll be the June 7th game. So that's the game where Boston was at the Yankees, the Saturday night game. Only went 4 innings. Gave up 9 hits, which we weren't seeing from him, and 8 runs, and it completely clocked them around there. And Boone just, you can't go to the bullpen too early, so that's a situation where you leave the starter in there, just take his medicine there. And that's probably where he got hurt a little before that, because before that start there, again, he's been actually magnificent up to this point there. So the oblique was probably really hurt around that time, but nevertheless, this is my conspiracy theory. His next start, ironically, is against the Sox again, but this time it's at Fenway, and of course, that's the Friday game there, and doesn't do much better there. Only goes 4 2/3 innings, so can he get into the 5th? Didn't get hit around as much. Only gave up 4 runs there with one of those one earned run there. So again, it wasn't like it was terrible and got clocked around like the previous start, but still, it wasn't like that same guy. And supposedly, again, that's the game where he said he felt something. But again, the Yankees game one must start, and that's the game against the Angels while the Yankees were all getting, in the midst of that terrible 6-game losing streak there. But still, he at least went into the 5th inning on this one. So gave the Yankees 5 1/3 innings there. Again, still not terrible numbers. Gave 5 hits, 2 earned runs with just 2 home runs there. So the 2 earned runs with just 2 solo home runs. So it was garbage and terrible. But still, you look at those 3 starts, it just didn't seem like it was the same guy. And I guess after that, the Yankees decided to shut him down on the 15-day IL. Now, what does that mean in actuality? Boone says he'll probably be out for about a month. So you're looking for him to be out about a month. And again, we don't know what the Yankee rotation is going to look at a month from now. Just because we got some pieces coming back. Number one, because Stroman, Luis Gil. Now, as for Stroman, obviously he's probably the more closer of the two of coming back there. And in case you didn't have an update on Stroman, so he's already pitched 2 games in AA for AA Somerset already. And I guess right now he's scheduled for Tuesday, June 24th to pitch a 3rd game. And they want to try to stretch him out to 70 pitches. And then Boone said, quote unquote, after that, once he comes, all systems clear after that, he's sort of in the mix. So don't be shocked that maybe after that 3rd rehab start, that maybe now he takes the position right there in the rotation. For the near term, the Yankees called up Alan Winans from AAA. Now, he's someone you probably didn't hear about because he's with the Braves a little bit. So he did have about 8 career starts with the Atlanta Braves between 2023 and 2024. Kind of up and down type of guy. Kind of no one you're really looking at. 29 years old. So, he's not really a young prospect, but he's still not exactly old there. But I probably guess the reason why the Yankees gave him the green light was his numbers so far for the AAA for the Yankees, which are actually outstanding. 7-0 record. ERA of 0.90. So this guy was pitching for an ERA under 1. And in the 11 games he played in, 9 of them were starts. So this guy started 9 games as an ERA under 1. So look at the stuff there. I guess, in terms of those numbers, you see why the Yankees brought him up. Now, this is going to be through this one rotation, a spot that's missed by Yarbrough. Are they going to keep him in the rotation that long? Remains to be seen. But you probably figure at some point, he might get 1, maybe 2 starts at that. But then probably once Stroman's ready there, he's probably the guy that they get inserted in. Now, they also have another option with JT Brubaker, who again joined the Yankees just before the Baltimore Orioles series. And if you remember what happened to him, he's the guy who took a line drive up in spring training off the ribs there. And so he was out for a while. He worked his way back. So he's back on the Major League roster now. And as they were working him back up from the minors there, they were stretching him out for 70 pitches. So it seems like with the Yankees, if you could come through clear on the 70 pitch mark, then I guess they feel you could start a game. So they could also technically put JT Brubaker in there. And he's someone that Cashman got from the Pirates a couple of years ago. So he does have experience as a starter. So they could put him in there, but it kind of seemed like Boone doesn't want him. They kind of leave him as a long reliever there, so they don't want him to start any games. He could start games, but probably you can see some guys maybe up and down a little bit. But it just seems like if you read the tea leaves a little bit, it looks like this kind of paving the way for Stroman to then re-enter the rotation. And then once Yarbrough is back and healthy, he'll probably just go back to the bullpen and will be sort of a long reliever himself. Or unless one of the other starters gets hurt, like a Max Fried or a Rendon there or Schmidt, then maybe you could put Yarbrough back in there. So probably if right now if he's looking at everything, probably Ryan Yarbrough's days of being a starter for the Yankees for the near term probably ended unless someone gets hurt there. So he's going to be out for a month. When he comes back, probably goes to the bullpen. And last but not least, you probably ask him about Luis Gil. Again, he's working his way back. So as of June 20th, he did throw live batting practice. Again, they wanted him to throw a few more live batting practice, and then from there, he'll get a rehab assignment. So you're probably looking for him rehabbing for most of the July. Maybe, again, I'm kind of mentioning this in the previous, probably late July, early August when he's actually returned to the Major League level there. So he's not even pitching minor league games yet, but he has thrown a bullpen session. Now, velocity-wise, they say he's been clocked around mid-90s. We know he could throw 98, 99 there, so he's probably just ramping up a little bit. But he's someone that's probably not going to be back in the near term. So of the two, you'll probably see Stroman back first there in the rotation, and you just hope only reason you'll see Ryan Yarbrough after that is someone else gets hurt, and you don't want to see that. But of course, on the brighter side, the Yankees kind of got their closer back, at least one of their closers, and that's because Luke Weaver. Again, remember, he originally went down a couple weeks ago with the hamstring injury, and again, the original projections, he'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Now, they did put him on the 15-day IL, but you figure maybe this is more like, paperwork related. They might extend that a little bit, but looks like he did come back. Now, he get one of those injection shots, the plasma-rich platelet shot there, where they shoot you up in the thing that's been using on Stanton there. They also shot him up with that, and it looks like maybe that was able to help him recover sooner there. And he came back during the Orioles series. Now, we know Boone put him in that first game there, which I don't think was the best decision. Top and eighth of the tied game there. Again, he's maybe not your de facto closer anymore. Just kind of Devin Williams has been thrown a little bit lately, and it's his first game back. Not really the greatest situation for him. He's a little bit rusty, got knocked around a little bit, but not the worst thing in the world. You can't expect a guy to be great in his first game back there. But the fact now you kind of have two closes, which was the original plan when Cashin made the deal, is to trade Nestor Cortez and bring Devin Williams in here. Of course, we know Devin Williams struggled early on, but he has been better of late there. Stuff is much sharper. And previous episodes, I've given you the numbers in terms of his swing and miss stuff where he's getting swing and misses now that he wasn't getting about 2 or 3 months ago there. Now in terms of, you might think, oh, well, Luke Weaver's back. We'll just go back to the way it was. Devin Williams sets up, and Luke Weaver will be the closer, and that's it. Turns out it's not going to be the case. I actually asked Boone about it, and it's really all going to be matchup. So everything's really up in the air. So it's a situation where if you need some big outs in the 7th inning or the 8th inning, and Luke Weaver's probably a better strikeout pitcher than Devin Williams is, he might bring Weaver in early and let Devin Williams close. Vice versa, if the next 3 guys up, Devin Williams has really good numbers against those 3 guys, they'll go for Devin Williams before that and bring Luke Weaver after this there. So looks like this is going to be a sort of a jack of all trades with those two there. Again, every night could be a little different. It depends on who's available, what the matchups are, how many innings who could throw there. Again, Luke Weaver has the benefit as that we know he can go multiple innings there. Of course, originally he was a starter, but even as a reliever for the Yankees, even when he was the closer, we saw in the playoffs he does have the ability to go more than 3 outs there, which is not something you would really say about Devin Williams there. So that's kind of the factor there. So really, you're not looking at anyone to be the sort of de facto closer for the Yankees. It's going to be closer by committee. And again, if they're both throwing the ball well, it doesn't really make a difference. All you want to do is just win the games. And a little less important, and I guess we'll go off topic a little bit, because that's, of course, the All-Star game coming up in a couple of weeks there. Again, I mentioned before some of the numbers there. Of course, Judge right now still leading all Major League players there, and I think that's going to be the case, and he'll obviously, he's going to start. It's Aaron Judge there. But nevertheless, the Yankees had a little interesting situation in terms of first base there, because if you looked up, you didn't notice it, but Paul Goldschmidt was leading first baseman, but it looks like he has lost ground to Vladdy Guerrero Jr. there, so I'll kind of give you the numbers there. So Vlad Guerrero has kind of leaped him over just a little bit there. So right now, him with Vlad with 1,192,604 votes compared to Paul Goldschmidt, 1 million as well, but 118,501 there. So if you guys want to do a little bit of a quick math there, so it looks like Vlad Guerrero Jr. has about 70,000 more votes than Paul Goldschmidt there. So if I had a look at the situation, probably Vladdy wins the position there. I mean, of the two of them, obviously he's the hotter player. He's the bigger name, and people that are not too familiar with baseball and stuff like that are just kind of casually voting. Yeah, maybe you heard of Paul Goldschmidt a little bit, but of course 37, 38 years old, and yeah, his MVP days are behind him there. Obviously, Vlad Guerrero is more the here and the now. He just signed a big contract. He's the face of the Toronto Blue Jays, whatever that's worth there. So probably, if I'd expect, Vlad Guerrero Jr. probably gets the starting job there at first baseman. But still, Paul Goldschmidt, with the numbers he's putting up there, still could be on the team there. So I would assume the Yankees are going to have a number of all-stars on the team other than Aaron Judge there. So I would probably always maybe expect Paul Goldschmidt to maybe be the backup first baseman. Now, a little controversy during the Baltimore series, and of course that was the Saturday game. Now the Yankees, won the game 9-0 there, so you don't remember the score. But of course, within that game was the Clarke Schmidt no-hitter, or at least on his way to a no-hitter, and of course Boone taking him out in the 7th inning. And of course you have the old school fans saying, the game's not the same. How can you take a guy out during a no-hitter and all that stuff there? But I actually think, and if you listen and if you subscribe to the audio podcast version, you would have got my take on this sooner, so you would know where to stand. But I'll bring it to you here if you didn't catch it there. And of course I think Boone made the right call on that one. Now I may say, hey James, aren't you a Yankee traditionalist? Aren't you a baseball tradition? Don't you want to see him go out for the no-hitter there? Yeah, but it has to make sense. And if you look at that situation where you were, first of all, the game, it was like 89 degrees out there, and that's just like the temperature. Imagine playing there on the field there with the sun beating down on you there. I mean, it's really tough to get through that. And of course, yeah, we know with David Cohn and his perfect game back in '99, but that's just a different time, different player, whole different situation. Clarke Schmidt is not David Cohn. We know David Cohn, his infamous 140 pitches there in the Seattle game, in the Seattle playoff game. Clarke Schmidt isn't Garrett Cole. Clarke Schmidt isn't Justin Verlander. He's Clarke Schmidt. It's a nice piece. It's really good what he's doing since he's come, joined the Yankees in the rotation this season there. But if you're going to stretch this guy out way more than you expecting him to there, you're just going to hurt. You're just going to end up getting the guy hurt there, and it's really not worth going for a no-hitter, in the middle of June there. Now, if you want to look at the situation at that point, he had just gotten through the 7th inning where, according to Boone there, Boone's looked like he labored there, and Clarke Schmidt didn't really, actually disagree with him. In fact, you didn't see anything afterwards. Like Clarke Schmidt was like, you have to let me in there and try to fight Boone in the dugout there. He kind of, he himself felt that once he was coming off the field like that was it for him. He kind of knew there. Up to that point, he only threw 103 pitches. Now, you might be pulling your hair out of your head. Oh, my God, that's nothing, 103 pitches. But in this day and age, that's just the way these pitches are. And that's just the way Clarke Schmidt is. Clarke Schmidt, he's not a bulldog type of guy who goes 9 innings and just just, throws 120 pitches there and shuts the other team down. He's not that type of player. At that point, his 103 pitches, he was at the tied a career high. So he's never gone in his career more than 103 pitches. So I don't expect you're going to bring him out in the eighth. How many more pitches do you think he's going to throw? And not only that, I mean, you got to look at the times he gets up, between innings to throw, warm up before the inning starts there. So it's way more than just 103 pitches. And if you want to look at his previous start up to that point there, he actually threw brilliantly as well in that game. That was the Angels game there where the Yankees obviously gave him no offense. He pitched into the eighth inning, so he went 7 2/3 innings, only threw 97 pitches there, so he kept it on 100, but still 97. But same thing, how many times you have to get up and down, warm up before the game there, warm up before the inning starts there. So at that point, the guy had gone like 14 and change of scoreless innings, so you want to tip his cap to that. Yeah, but you were not going to bring him out into the eighth inning. Now, technically, could you just say, hey, look, I'm going to put you out in the eighth inning, and if you end up giving a hit, then I'm going to yank you out? Technically, you could do that there, but I don't see why you want to push the guy any further than he's used to. I just don't see the benefit, the upside of that. And okay, wow, he throws a no-hitter. What does it really mean? I mean, Domingo Germán a couple of years ago for the Yankees threw a perfect game. What did that mean? I mean, two starts later, he's off the team there for the busting up the clubhouse there. So it really doesn't mean nothing. I don't think it's a situation that would push the guy in that situation. Now, later in the season, maybe by August, Clarke Schmidt is built up to go 120 pitches. Maybe at that point, if he's in a similar situation, you push him. But you don't push him at this point there where, he's only been back for about a little bit more than a month and change there a little bit since joining the Yankees. Again, he pretty much didn't have a spring training there. He was delayed with some injuries there. I don't think you're going to push the guy than that. So the right call by Boone there. And if all the people complaining, it's just like, I know what you're complaining about. And if you want to look at Johan Santana with the Mets there, of course, Terry, pushed him more than he would there. He ended up with like 138 pitches. Great. He got his perfect game, the first perfect and only perfect game in Mets history. Whoop-de-doo. But what happened after that? Johan got shut down there, and then he was never the same player after that. And before you knew it, he was thrown out of baseball there. So, you push a guy more than you have to there, and it's not worth it. You end up hurting the guy. We saw what happened to Santana, and I don't think, I think Boone made the right call to not extend Schmidt as well there. He was done after 103 pitches. The game was well in hand. You're winning 9-0. No read. And of course, JT Brubaker comes in there, kind of gets a tough call, and ends up giving up the no-hitter to Gary Sanchez on a kind of excuse me type of swing like that. Nevertheless, doesn't really mean anything there, and he's just scratching up stuff there. And the good thing is about Clarke Schmidt, you reserve him, preserve him for the rest of the season. That's more important. And of course, Joe Carlson already rejoined the team there, and I figured you don't want to check after a guy after 1 or 2 games there. It's a little too much there, but it's been about a week or so there, so I figured it'd be a good time to just kind of check under the hood if in case you know what's up with Stanton there. So if I look at his numbers right now, at least up to this point, this second as I'm saying this, 6 games under his belt. Now, the batting average is probably much higher than you would expect there. Now, this is only a 19 at-bats, so not a ton of bats, but still a pretty good chunk there. Hitting .316, which is much higher than we expect from Giancarlo Stanton there. Again, we've seen him, somebody hover around 230, 240, like that. So at this point, hitting .316. Now, as he gets more at-bats, I would expect that to get a little lower. But also, the reason you have him on the team is because it's the power there. That really, we haven't seen that yet. So at this point there, in the 19 at-bats, he does have 6 hits. Great there. But only has 1 double and 0 home runs at this point there. So you're not going to get the power right away. You figure that, but at a certain point, you're going to figure, all right, even if the batting average goes down a little bit, as long as the power is going up and you're driving the ball around and hitting RBIs and bringing guys in there, you'll take a lower batting average, of course, there. 2 walks, okay, it's okay. 6 strikeouts, again, not terrible there. And an OPS of .749, and you want to put some context to that. His career average is .870, so his OPS is about 100. About .001 less than his career average. It was not terrible there. And again, that's over the course of a 16-year career there. So, his OPS is just about the same as right now. So, overall, you say contact hitting-wise, doing a good job there, but you want to see more with the power. And I think over time, as long as he's able to manage this pain in his elbows there, you'll start seeing the homers. And of course, with baseball, with the All-Star game, that's the Midsummer Classic. That's one good aspect of summer baseball. The other one is, of course, the trade deadline. Of course, all the trade talk as we get closer to the deadline. Now, I don't think anything's going to be heavy right now because it's still too far away. But we got some initial reporting now. This is according from John Heyman of MLB Network. Now, don't really know what his sources are. I don't know if he actually had any sort of direct dialogue with Cashman or one of his subservients under him there to give him the little tip there, or if this is his assessment of the situation there. So kind of hard there, but of course the story's been going around. Again, share it with you in case you didn't hear it. So basically, according to Heyman there, is that the Yankees are probably not going to be looking for another starter there just because the market right now is very thin in that area, and they'll be more apt to look for some bullpen help, which again, I probably just makes sense there. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's really his assessment, or does he have a little birdie in Cashman's ear that was able to get that piece of information right. So looks like the Yankees would more be looking for bullpen help than they would be, and as well as looking for possibly an upgraded third base as well as a utility player. So I'll break each of those down there. I probably would agree that the assessment that they're probably not looking for a starter there. There's not a ton of great starters out there. I don't think it's a really big need for the Yankees. I mean, look, could you always use another good starter? Sure, why not there? But I also know who you're going to give up and who you're going to really bring in that's really going to make that big of a difference. Again, Max Fried overall has been good for the Yankees. Rendon's been much better for the Yankees this season. Again, he's kind of taken leap steps there as well. Of course, at some point you're banking on Luis Hill coming back. Clark Schmidt, even though he's not the type of guy he has started a playoff game for the Yankees, but I don't think it's a situation you're looking to move him out there. And of course, you're getting Stroman back in. He's nothing fantastic there, but again, you are paying the guy like $18 million there. That doesn't mean you have to start him there, but again, I think the starting rotation for the Yankees has been pretty solid overall there, so I don't expect a move. It could happen. Again, you'll see a plethora of starters available, so that assessment makes good. As for the Yankee bullpen, Cashman's always tweaking and putting together and adding some pieces, so right now, at least at this moment, the Yankee bullpen is ranked 5th in the AL East in terms of ERA with 3.46. And traditionally, over the past couple of seasons, the Yankees bullpen has been very good. Even with last season with some lumps with Clay Holmes there. Overall, they did iron it out. Give Holmes a different role there. Put Weaver in as a closer there. Again, the Yankee bullpen was pretty good in the way to really pretty much shut down the other teams there. Getting through the division as well as in the ALCS there. And it's pretty similar to this Yankee bullpen this season. I think they're even better than that there. Of course, with the addition of Devin Williams, and again, he's been throwing the ball lately, and the emergence of someone like Fernando Cruz, and of course the return of Jonathan Loaizaga. So could the Yankees also bring in another piece there? Potentially. I don't think the bullpen's in dire needs of some more pieces there. Tim Hill is the sort of de facto lefty. He's been overall doing a pretty good job. He's getting a little longer in the tooth at age 35 there. And because even when Ryan Yarbrough comes back a month from now and you put him in the bullpen, you have two good lefties there. So that's I'm not really think the Yankees are in dire need, but I can see them making the situation. As for third base, you have Jazz there, so unless you got some really big deal coming in, or even with DJ LeMahieu, I think they're satisfied with him at second base. Again, he hasn't been gangbusters, but he's been okay there. And I don't think you're going to move Jazz out or make him a bench player there. So I don't see the Yankees, could they use another third baseman, but I don't really see them making a move there. The only one that would make sense a little bit is utility player, because if you look at the two utility players they had, one was Oswaldo Cabrera, the jack of all trades, who could play anywhere. Well, you lost him to the broken ankle. And Pablo Reyes, who, he can't really hit. We know his problems there, but at least he can play multiple positions. But, of course, now he's off the team DFA'd when Stanton came back there. So could the Yankees then use a utility player? That at least makes sense because they don't really have a utility player. So of all the moves and suggestions that Heyman mentioned there, utility players makes the most sense. So quite recently, I was taking a little drive out to Jersey, and of course, what you do, you put on the Sports Talk radio. I'm going to do 660, the Fan Day, the afternoon drive with Evan and Tiki, and of course, an interesting debate came up regarding Anthony Volpe. This is again kind of Volpe was in the midst of like a 25 game, a 25 at bat hitless streak there. Now he finally did break out, and that was that Saturday game with the Clark Schmidt with the no hitter there. Had 3 hits, including a home run there. Now Boone gave him a scheduled day off the next day, Sunday, because like, why you do that? The guy just got 3 hits. Maybe he's getting hot again. He's going to sit him down. But of course, that was what they call a scheduled day off, because the Yankees are going to miss some 16 games without a day off there, so they want to at least give him a day there Sunday. So kind of understand that, but the guy just got 3 hits. I mean, keep him in there, let him roll there. But nevertheless, separate argument. But the whole argument is, as a Yankee fan, do you consider Anthony Volpe a bust? And of course, the assessment from the two announcers, the host there, and of course from the call is that, well, you wouldn't call him a bust exactly, but is he a disappointment from what you expected 3 years ago when he was a rookie with the Yankees in 2003? You could maybe say that a little bit. I never, all this talk about him being the next Derek Jeter, stuff like that, I never bought into that. But I thought he'd be maybe a better contact hitter, maybe hitting a little bit over 300 there, and maybe batting first or second there in the lineup, and making contact, starting rallies, getting on base. We know when he can get on base, he can steal base and stuff like that, which he kind of does with the Yankees. But we also see the problem with the hitting there. Usually hitting around the 230s, the 220s sometimes there, not getting on base enough, having these extended hitless streaks there, number of bats there, and frustrating fans, stuff like that. So you got to understand all the arguments all around there. So, but I would also agree with the assessment that would you call him a little bit of a disappointment, what you expected coming in there? But would you call him a bust? No, far from that. Again, he's pretty competent as a shortstop. Is he one of the best in the game? No, but he doesn't really hurt the team there. And at least at this point, he doesn't really, he's good enough there where he's not really hurting the Yankees by putting him there, even when he has kind of these elongated slumps. And I don't think it's a situation where the Yankees are looking to sort of move or upgrade in that situation. And I don't know what other options you would even put in there. I mean, Praz is not exactly gangbusters as well. So, and of course, you got, could you potentially be bringing a third baseman and move Jazz to shortstop? Could do that, but then what are you going to do with Volpe? This doesn't make sense. And you're not going to switch Volpe to be a second baseman there. So I just don't see any of that happen. So I think long-term the Yankees will stick with Volpe there at shortstop. But I'll go over some of the numbers real quickly. Make an argument that, again, not as bad as we think it is. Yes, he's not maybe the big prospect, the A-plus prospect we thought we could be. He can still be that. I mean, he's a young guy. It's only his third season there. But maybe he doesn't turn out to be that great player. But he could be decent enough and comparable enough there, to stay with the team. And I don't think he hurts the team. But if you want to just go with the numbers. So at least right now, again, you're not too really, thrilled of the batting average. That's 236 batting average, has the 9 home runs. So if you think about it, we're not only at the halfway point of the season yet. He's on pace to hit about 20 home runs, which he kind of does almost 7 every season with the Yankees. So a shortstop, which traditionally you never look for offense or any sort of power from a shortstop traditionally. I know that all changed with Jeter and Nomar Garcia Power, Miguel Tejada and A-Rod and the whole gang. But still, you usually your shortstop is usually a scrappy guy, doesn't give you much. As long as he has a good glove, that's all you expect. He gives you a little bit more than that. Okay, the batting average is low, but 9 home runs, nothing to sniff at. And we've seen him hit 20 home runs in the season. He's kind of on pace to do that again. So nothing to be ashamed of. 41 RBIs. So again, if you wanted to say we're at the midpoint of the season, he could be on his way to just about 80 RBIs, which is not too shabby for a shortstop, and 64 hits. Now he has the 1 Gold Glove already. He got that in his rookie season. Hasn't gotten that again since. But still, he has pretty solid defense. He does bobble one once in a while, but overall really reliable. We see him make a lot of highlight plays. We see him do the Jeter jump throw and all that. You see him make some long throws in the hole there. So very good shortstop, very solid there. So doesn't really hurt the Yankees in that situation. Is he Bobby Witt Jr.? No. Now the only thing about him is he's not the player all right, it's the bottom of the 8th, the bottom of the 9th, and he's up against a tough reliever, and he puts on a really good at-bat, and he gets a big hit to tie the game there. Have we seen that type of game from Volpe yet? No, but again, at some point that could be the case for him, but again, we haven't seen that yet, and I don't know if he'll ever be that superstar type of player, but I just think it was a little unrealistic. I mean, think that from him, again, but what we saw from him, I think he'd at least be a comparable major league player. Again, we see a lot of players that only come here for 1 or 2 seasons and just kind of fall apart. You get someone like a Shelley Duncan who comes on the scene, hitting home runs, you think he's great, and then they fade away. Same thing with someone like a Shane Spencer. Has some home runs. You think, this is the natural. He's going to be the greatest player ever, and all of a sudden he just falls apart. And you don't hear from him anymore. But Anthony Volpe doesn't seem to be that type of guy. He's not going to be a superstar, but at least seems to be a keeper because he does other really good things for his team with his abilities. So if you want to look first, now I looked at some different types of reports that rank shortstops, and it's hard to see which one is better than that. But I found a pretty one that I think was very fair, and this had to do with the Bleacher Report. Now the report is a little old. It actually ranked some players. This was back in November 2024, so this is after the World Series. So this will be after Volpe's full, complete second season. So this season obviously is up for grabs yet, so it's hard to really make a determination as it go. But if you want to at least take his first 2 seasons, want to make the argument that at least he's a middle of the pack, a good, decent shortstop, not the best, but at least middle of the pack there, where he's not exactly hurting you, and you're not in a dire need like you have to bring in another shortstop there. So according to the Bleacher Report, they ranked the 25 shortstops in the majors there. They put Volpe at number 13, right in the middle, basically. Maybe it's he's a little under the midway point there. So, and that's what you kind of expect. Now, the reason for that, number one, they looked at his WAR. His WAR was 3.3. Now, you might say, what is WAR? That's wins above replacement. So basically what it means is that they take your position, which would be his position, shortstop. They look at his numbers and they compare that to maybe some average person that he would be replaced with. So basically, it's you versus Joe Schmo, and the fact that you're in there, what can you do to, how many wins can you add to the team? So the fact that his WAR is 3.3, that means that just put him in there versus Joe Schmo, he's adding 3+ wins to the Yankee team of the season there. And if you want to look at the rest of the way there, now they deal, of course, with rookie year with 21 home runs and 24 stolen bases. And if you want to look the year after that, the WAR was even higher. That's 3.4 WAR there. So it means he's adding 3 wins per 0.4 wins per season for the Yankees, and that had to do with his 46 total base hits there and 28 stolen bases there. And if we look from his first to second years, he knocked down his strikeouts there from 27.8 down to about 6 points, 22.6 there. So he reduced his strikeouts. So the whole picture of the overall that we've been seeing slight improvements of his game. He's not going to be the superstar we thought he was going to be, but he's mean garbage, and I think he doesn't hurt the Yankees, and I think you can see him there probably for the next few seasons. So that's the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, as well as subscribe to the audio podcast version of Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and we'll catch you next time.